I call this meeting of the Northeast Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. The board will now adjourn into executive session pursuant to the following sections of the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, private consultation with the board's attorney, 551.072, discussing purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, and 551.074 to discuss personnel or hear complaints against personnel. The time is now 5:31. There we go. The board will now reconvene in open session. The time is 6:48. On behalf of the trustees, I would like to welcome you to this evening's meeting of the Northeast Independent School Board. This is a meeting of the board that's held in public. We appreciate your attendance and we request your respectful attention. We welcome your comments during the matters from the floor section of the agenda. If you signed up to address a specific agenda item, you will be called at that time. Finally, I would like to remind you that it is the mission of the Northeast Independent School District to challenge and encourage each student to achieve and demonstrate academic excellence, technical skills, and responsible citizenship. Next item.
5, Invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. A, Bush Middle School. Gary Kamalander, Principal.
Good evening. President Glendo, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, members of the executive staff, and guests. It is with great pleasure that I introduce two of our fine, outstanding students at Bush Middle School today. Both of these students represent what we call the Bush Way. They are highly involved in their academics, both involved in athletics, both involved in fine arts, different clubs and organizations, and take care of a lot of outside interests at the same time. Without a doubt, one of the proudest things that I'm sure their parents are and me is both rank in the top 3% of our 8th grade class with their GPA. So not only are they involved in a lot of areas, they take care of their business in the school. The first student I'd like to introduce is Santiara Churchwell. She's an 8th grader at Bush. Some of the things I'd like to highlight on her is she's been a member of the Bush Orchestra for 3 years, and really 5 if you include 2 years of strings in elementary school. She's been a member of our Bush Junior Pals organization. She's a member of our National Junior Honor Society. She placed 7th in last year's junior vase competition. She's involved in athletics, in basketball. She's been stage manager for our Bush Theater. She's received our Bulldog with Pride Award all 3 years, Female English Scholar Award when she was in 6th grade, and currently still all A honor roll for 3 straight years, just 9 weeks to go. So I feel confident she's going to take care of that for all those years. Also here with Santiara is her parents, Stacy and Tramika Churchwell, and her little brother, Sebastian. I'd also like to introduce the second student here, Robert Quirk. He's an 8th grader at Bush. Some of the things Robert is involved with is he's involved in all 3 of our athletic sports, football, basketball, and track for 2 years. He's also been involved with our orchestra for the past 3 years. A little side note, both of our orchestras were sweepstakes this last week, and they got straight ones thanks to these two. He's a member of the National Junior Honor Society. He's involved with our Fellowship of Christian Athletes and an Uplift member. Also, all A honor roll for 3 straight years running. He was involved with the SAT, took it last year as part of the Duke Talent Search, and scored in the top 5% nationwide. And is going to have an opportunity to attend Rice this summer with the Duke TIP program. So it's going to be a great honor. And finally, he's also a part of our, what we call BBNN, which is our Barbara Bush News Network, works on our online newspaper and our yearbook, and occasionally even gets on the TV. So as you can see, both of these students have a lot they are involved in. With Robert tonight is his parents, Bob and Karen Quirk. It is with great pleasure that tonight Santiago will lead our invocation and Robert will lead us in the pledge to the American flag and to the Texas flag. Would everyone please rise?
In the Bible, God orders Jeremiah, "Let these people turn to you, but you must not turn to them." All of my life I've had to be a leader, whether in my older sister role, my fellowship at church, or just simply pointing others in the right direction. All are roles that have shaped me into the person I am today. I believe that school is not only about laying a sturdy foundation of education, but it is also about preparation for the real world. In the real world, many of us students will have to work with others while maintaining a level of efficiency through the art of teamwork. At an early age, time in the classroom stresses the power of a team and the power of its leaders. Leaders are those willing to stay after class to help another in need. Leaders are those who take a stand in the midst of injustice. And leaders are those who just simply care. Those who care are willing to go the extra mile. And quite frankly, that's what it means to be a part of NEISD. Even though our district is made up of many different schools with many different students, at the end of the day, we are one team full of student leaders. This district has provided me with various opportunities to hone my leadership skills, and it bodes well for our future that every NEISD student has multiple ways of presenting leadership. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Bresnahan has some certificates to give to the students. And if Mom and Dad, if y'all would like to take pictures, you are more than welcome to do so. Yeah, sure. Aw, sweet baby. He wants to be with his sister. Oops.
Mr. Comalander, could you get me a copy of her invocation, please? I have a state meeting this weekend, and I would really love to share that. That was pretty great. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks again, and we welcome you to stay in our meeting. However, sometimes it kind of drags on a little late, and I know you may have homework to do, so it won't hurt our feelings if you leave. Just feel free at any time. Thank you. All right, next item. I don't blame you. You can always watch it later online or something if you really want to see it. Next item.
6, recognitions. A, Celebrate Texas Public Schools Video Contest Grand Prize winner.
Ms. Chancellor, is she here? There she is.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff, and guests. Texas schools throughout the state were asked to create a video, and the concept was to answer the question, why education is bigger here in Texas. The video contest is coordinated by the Texas School Public Relations Association, and it's sponsored by Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union. It's all a part of the Celebrate Texas Public Schools year-round campaign. Video entries were selected as regional winners, and then after that, they went on to be judged by representatives of Texas education organizations as well as representatives from Randolph Brooks. I'm very excited to announce that the grand prize winner for this year's contest is from right here in the Northeast Independent School District. I'd like to invite Steve Inistrosa, Assistant Vice President of Business Development for RBFCU, to come up and make the official announcement for us. Steve?
Every moment of every day in our public schools, real-life engagement and profound learning occurs. This is something that our students and teachers know well. They celebrate these big and little moments as they happen. The creators of this fantastic video will allow us to continue celebrating these moments in a bigger way. It's also my pleasure to announce and introduce two of my really great colleagues you may know, Steve Klein, Business Development Officer, and Rafael Rodriguez, Director of Business Development for Randolph Brooks. I'd like to introduce, thank you. I'd like to again announce MacArthur High School as the Celebrate Texas Public Schools Video Contest Grand Prize winner. And I'd like to present this check for $1,000 to use at your school to continue the great work you are doing.
And accepting the check this evening will actually be Senior Kevin Stevenson. Can you come on up, Kevin? As along with his teacher, Steve Davidson. These are the gentlemen who are responsible for making this video, and also here with us tonight, MacArthur Principal Pete Martinez. And tonight, before we move on, we would like to actually show the video that Kevin and Mr. Davidson put together.
It's so cute.
The opportunity to imagine.
What's bigger here?
The opportunity to receive help.
What's bigger here? The opportunity for diversity.
What's bigger here?
The opportunity to keep things cooking.
What's bigger here? The opportunity to apply technology with innovative lessons.
What's bigger here? Duty, honor, country.
What's bigger here? The opportunity to advance our dreams.
It's really cute.
That was excellent. What a great job. Very creative. How much time did you have? 3 weeks. No, no, I meant the video. It seems pretty. it only, wow, you said a lot in a minute. Congratulations. That to me is the hardest part. Great. Well, thank you for coming tonight. And again, you're welcome to join us for the rest of our meeting. Or if you have homework to do, you're welcome to do that as well. Dr. Gottardy.
Mrs. Glendo, board members, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say that obviously the video from the student at MacArthur is absolutely fantastic. It really does highlight in a very quick amount of time all the great things that are occurring in our public schools. We thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
I also want to thank Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union.
Yes. Thank
I have
you.
to tell you that we have we have many partners that work with the Northeast Independent School District, both with their time, their effort, and with funds. And I have to tell you that at the very top of that list is Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union. They're always at the plate to help us no matter what the event is. So thank you so much to Steve and Ralph. We really appreciate everything you do for our school district. Thank you.
Excellent. Next item.
B, other.
I don't think we have any other unless are there any Boy Scouts out in the audience? Any Scouts? Nope. All right. Next item.
7, matters from executive session. A, personnel, including but not limited to administrative appointments pursuant to Government Code Section 551.074. 1, possible action regarding routine personnel, including but not limited to administrative appointments.
Do I have a motion regarding personnel?
I move that we approve personnel as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Grona. I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
2, possible action regarding proposed recommendation for termination of Chapter 21 continuing contract employees.
And we have no action there. Next item.
3, introductions.
Dr. Gottardy.
Thank you, Madam President, board members. Yes, it's my privilege and my honor this evening to introduce to you several new key employees to the school district. First and foremost, we have a new assistant principal of Ridgeview Elementary School, Marlo Dillahunty. Marlo joined the Northeast family in 2002 as a 4th grade teacher at Jackson Keller Elementary School. Prior to her appointment to this position, she was an instructional interventionist at Almas Elementary School. She received her Bachelor of Arts degree in Interdisciplinary Studies from the University of Texas at San Antonio in 1992. Additionally, she earned her Master of Education degree in Educational Administration from Concordia University in 2013. Ms. Dillahunty has a total of 21 years in education. Congratulations and welcome. We have a brand new assistant principal at Nimitz Middle School, Mr. Sergio Martinez, Jr. Mr. Martinez is rejoining the Northeast family as assistant principal at Nimitz Middle School. Prior to his appointment to this position, he was an ARD facilitator at McAuliffe Middle School at Southwest Independent School District. Prior to Southwest ISD, Mr. Martinez was a special education coordinator at Nimitz Middle School during the 2011 through 2013 school years. He received his Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology from the University of Texas at Brownsville in 2006. Additionally, he earned his Master of Arts degree in Educational Administration from Texas A&M University at San Antonio in 2012. Mr. Martinez has a total of 7 years in education. Congratulations and welcome, Sergio. We have a brand new assistant principal of Tex Hill Middle School, Ms. Martha Reyes. Martha joined the Northeast family in 2009 as the academic dean of instruction at Eisenhower Middle School. She received her Bachelor of Arts degree in political science from the University of Texas, Pan Am, in 1998. Additionally, she earned her Master of Arts degree in public administration from the University of Texas at San Antonio in 2004. Ms. Reyes has a total of 14 years in education. Congratulations. We have a brand new head coach and athletic coordinator of Madison High School, Mr. Mark Smith. Coach Smith is joining the Northeast family as head football coach, athletic director at Madison High School. Prior to his appointment to this position, he was head football coach at Judson High School at Judson ISD. He received his Bachelor of Arts degree in Business Management in 1985 and earned his Master of Science degree in School Administration in 1987 from both Texas A&I University at Kingsville. Mr. Smith has a total of 24 years in education. Welcome, Coach Smith. And we have a new director of men's athletics at BAC, Mr. Timothy Woods. Coach Woods joined the Northeast family in 1999 as a special education teacher and coach at Eisenhower Middle School. Prior to his appointment to this position, he was a teacher and coach at Churchill High School. He received his Bachelor of Arts degree in Finance from Texas Lutheran College in 1987. Additionally, he earned his Master of Education degree in teaching from Schreiner University in 2008. Mr. Woods has a total of 15 years in education. Congratulations, Tim. And that concludes our introductions.
Well, congratulations, everyone, and welcome to the Northeast family. Those of you who are new or returning, and welcome to your new positions. We're very proud to have you as part of the team and looking forward to a great year coming up. Next item.
B, possible action on the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property pursuant to Government Code Section 551.072.
And we have no action there. Next item.
C, possible action regarding consultation with board's attorney pursuant to Government Code Section 551.071. 1, possible and pending litigation.
No action there. Next item.
8, new business for possible board action. A, board business. 1, possible action regarding HEB Excellence in Education Finalist Award.
Thank you, Ms. Hughey. I believe we've talked about this at a previous board meeting, but the Northeast School Board was nominated to be a possible recipient of the very first HEB School Board of the Year award. So we're very excited about that. There were 60 applicants and 5 made it through. So we have we're in good company. We're with Temple ISD, Edinburgh, Aldine, Northside, and Northeast. So the award will be given out May 3rd in Houston. So did you want to say something about that, Dr.
I would love to say a few
Gottardy?
words if you don't mind. I know this was your agenda item, but I would love to just piggyback what Mrs. Glendale has already said. Obviously, this is the first time that HEB has designated this award at their annual awards dinner that they have every May. We're very proud of this Board of Trustees. Mrs. Glendale has already said that 60 people applied. They narrowed it down to 5. I can tell you that it is a fantastic accomplishment to be in the top 5. Obviously, we want to win the award.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it. Yeah. But just the fact that you were picked out of a group of 60 and you're now in the top 5 school boards all across the state of Texas, which there are 1,100 or more school boards in the state of Texas, it's quite an accomplishment. So ladies and gentlemen, please help me give our Board of Trustees a round of applause.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Y'all make the job easy.
So already, we were given a check for $5,000 as being one of the top 5 school boards. And now, as a board, we just have to designate where we would like to see that money used. So we can have a discussion about it. If anybody has some thoughts or ideas about where they would like to see that money go. Ms. Hughey, did you have?
Well, I think Dr. Gottardy kind of leads the way on that. At Convocation this year, he made a special point of noting that the foundation is well deserved of our support. And the nice thing about that is every penny of profit in the foundation goes right back to the classroom. So goes right to our teachers.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. Does anybody else have a thought or an idea? In addition to the foundation?
There's so many places it could be used, but that's probably the number. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Gottardy has that.
Yes, Dr. Gottardy.
I was waiting for other board members to say something. I would ditto what Mrs. Hughey said. What I love about the idea of the entire $5,000 going to the Educational Foundation is because every year, about this time, in fact, it's coming up here in a couple weeks, I know that Mrs. Hawkins is on that committee. The foundation will determine how much money is available for grants that go back to the teachers and students in the classroom in this district. I know last year, I want to say somewhere around $140,000 went back to teachers in this district. So the idea of the $5,000 award going straight to the foundation, and then they can give it out to teachers and students, right on target.
Win-win.
And just to give an example of the need, we've had over $400,000 in request for grants this year. So the $5,000 would definitely be used pretty quickly.
Now, when we win the other big award,
There you go. There you go.
we'll probably be recommending that go to the foundation as well.
Probably be a great recommendation, and I'm certain we'll come back with a check. Well, I'm not certain, but I hope so. All right. Do I have a motion regarding the check for $5,000?
I move that we present the check to the Northeast Educational Foundation.
Thank you, Ms. Hughey. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you very much. And congratulations to the foundation. Next item.
B, board policies. 1, possible action regarding board policy DEC local, first reading.
Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff, and guests. This is a first reading for a proposed local change to how we give out sick leave. Usually, first-year employees, we advance them the dates, and it kind of becomes laborious. With our new ERP system, we can try to calculate as they earn it, and that doesn't leave us leaving, in case somebody leaves with extra days. So that's what this change is for.
All right. Are there board members with questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I move we approve first reading of DEC local.
Thank you, Ms. Hughey. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bresnahan. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
2, possible action regarding board policy update 98, second and final reading with the exception of board policy DNA local.
Dr. Gottardy.
Thank you, Madam President. Board members, we bring to you tonight the second reading of Board Policy Update 98. Obviously, with the exception of Board Policy DNA local, executive staff actually spoke about DNA today at our staff meeting. We will be bringing to you shortly the first reading for DNA. But tonight what we're doing is we're asking for your approval, all but DNA, for update, Policy Update 98. We'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Are there board members with questions? I know I had a couple, but I just have to
I just had one
scroll
note.
down.
There's a typo on page 65.
Can you tell us what the typo is?
Is that the one with
It's-
AC dash
Accordance.
AC?
Accordance. Under grievances.
I see it.
Yeah.
I see it.
It's actually in DNA local. So
Okay.
it's not even being approved tonight anyway, but just for
It's in
future.
DNA?
Yeah.
Okay.
I had a question about the chief of police now coming under the superintendent, and I think it's great. I just was curious about why the state brought that about as a change.
I'm not necessarily sure why there's a change. I would assume that in majority of the smaller school districts, Mrs. Galindo, that there may not necessarily be an assistant superintendent or associate superintendent.
I see.
Therefore, it just makes sense that if that district has a chief of police, that person will report directly to the superintendent.
Okay. That makes sense. Are there any other board members that have questions? I had one more. I flagged it, but it's so long, it's hard to tell what page it's on. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. About the designation of representative in a grievance process, that it can be done now by telephone call? Is that the way I'm reading that?
Thank you. Yeah, I noticed that
Can
too.
you,
Thanks.
can you tell me what page?
It's on page 52.
Thanks. I remember seeing that too.
And it can be happen at any level of the grievance process, that the representative can participate by in-person or by phone call. And I think they have to give a couple days' notice, but that's it. It's at the very bottom of 52.
Was that part of the?
Dr. Newman, can you share or have Mr. Trevino come up and share?
Mr. Trevino is available to come up and answer your question, President
you.
Galindo.
That is correct.
Well, there you have it.
At any point prior to this policy change, there was a lot of confusion whether or not to allow representatives in the grievance process for an employee to be represented by someone over the phone. So they made this change to allow for that.
And did I read it right? It's like they have to give you a 2-day notice or something like that if they're going to do it over the phone?
I did not read that, but
Okay.
usually we ask that if they're going to be represented to give the administration prior notification of representation, and probably that goes along with a phone representative.
So if they have legal representation, that would be done by phone as well?
That could be done by phone.
It can be.
It can be done, yes.
It can be. Okay, cool. All right, thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Did that
Ms. Hughey.
come from is that coming from where I know the state was working a lot, the legislature was working a lot this past year on updating things, bringing us technology issues more in line with making it easier on us for issues? Is
that could be, but this was basically the recommendation from TASB.
Right.
And it came strictly from TASB as far as I know.
Yeah.
That could certainly be kind of like an offshoot of that.
Yeah, I knew there were several bills that were filed. I didn't know where they finally ended up with wanting to enhance our use of technology in some of these issues. Okay.
I guess they're transforming also.
Yeah. Hopefully.
All right. Are there board members that have questions? Any other questions? Nope. Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the second and final reading of the attached local policies included in Update 98, with the exception of Board Policy DNA as submitted.
Thank you, Ms. Grona. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item.
C, instruction. 1, possible action regarding report of instructional material.
Ms. Hawkins.
Thank you, President Galindo, board members, and Dr. Gottardy. Colleen Borman, our Executive Director for Curriculum Compliance, will start this presentation off, and Patty Castellano, Senior Director of School Improvement, will continue with it.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Madam President, Dr. Gottardy, members of the board, executive staff, and guests. Thank you for providing us the opportunity to bring you an update. We good? And thank you. Better? For providing us an opportunity to bring you an update on the instructional materials allotment purchases. We're here once again to request approval for the purchases of instructional materials as outlined in Board Policy EFAA. Board Policy states that a team is to select instructional materials to be purchased based on the instructional needs of the district. And we're very proud to let you know that's exactly what Northeast has done. As you will see, we've assembled a very talented group of individuals from across the divisions to help us with this process, and I would like to introduce that group. From the Division of Instruction, we have Jana Hawkins, our boss. Then we have Terry Chidgey, Patty Castellano. From the Division of Business Services, we had Dan Villarreal, David Bohannon, Mary Alex, Veronica Binder, Jimmy Ramos. And then we also had a subcommittee of the IMA to help with this adoption, and that included Julie Ricklick from elementary math, Lori Robinson from secondary math, Tom Campsey, science all levels, Alicia Alvarez Calderon, bilingual ELL. From career and tech, we had Johnny Vahalik. From Technology Services, Tom Johnson, Cindy Gregory, David Haddad, and from Data Processing, we had David Rivera, a great group of people to work with. I'm now going to turn the program over to Patty Castellano, Senior Director for School Improvement.
Good evening.
Good evening.
You may recall, thank you so much. You may recall that in 2011, the 82nd Legislature under Senate Bill 6 created the Instructional Materials Allotment for the purchase of instructional materials, technological equipment, and technology-related services. If I could identify one word that describes the changes brought about from the old textbook adoption policy to the current instructional materials allotment, that word would be change. Some of you may recall the state's previous adoptions and the controversy that sometimes surrounded the adoptions. Most notably, you might recall science and the concepts of evolution that created some controversy. However, districts were still required, despite how the community felt, to implement that curriculum under the law. So IMA is designed to give districts more control over the purchase of instructional materials that are aligned to the State Board of Education curriculum as outlined in the text. This was in response to much criticism from educators and experts about the lack of the ability of local districts to make those decisions. As Dr. Gottardy has said many times throughout the transformation process, much has changed in the last 10 years in education. Most notably, the delivery of instruction has changed. We've moved from static resources to dynamic digital resources. As the Texas Computer Education Association highlights, as the delivery of information has changed from print to digital, the IMA is designed to give districts the flexibility that they need to allow them to deliver the content that they deem as prudent and that is aligned to their infrastructure. So under IMA, many of the changes have been brought about to allow districts greater flexibility. And now I'd like to highlight 4 of the major changes in the IMA. The first change is a change in the definition of instructional materials. Under the old textbook adoption policy, an instructional resource was considered a book. Under the new IMA materials allotment policy, an instructional resource can be a book, a combination of a book, workbook, and supplementary material. It could be a CD-ROM, a DVD, computer software, or courseware. It could be online services or even electronic mediums such as computers and iPads. Another change is in instructional philosophy. So under the old textbook adoption policy, books served as the base curriculum, and the assumption was that the book was the only resource or the primary resource. Under the new instructional materials allotment, instructional resources serve as a strategic resource that help achieve learning in an engaging 21st century environment. And the IMA acknowledges that one or many resources may be appropriate. A third change is in funding and ownership. Under the old textbook adoption policy, districts didn't have to worry about funding because we were allotted funds based on the price of the textbook per student, and the state owned the books. Under the instructional materials allotment, it ensures that we're given funds on a per student allocation, but it requires that then we manage those funds, and then the textbooks or the resources belong to the district, so we own them. The fourth major change is in procedures for the selection of materials. Under the old textbook adoption policy, we had extensive procedures for how we engaged our community in the selection of those materials. We were required to select only from the state board approved list, and you may remember terms like conforming and non-conforming. It required us to form subject area committees, involve the CIC. It required parent participation, and it required a final vote. what the state found was that sometimes this created tension between the district philosophy and program and then ultimately the resources that were selected by teachers. So sometimes there was a misalignment. So under the new IMA, the move was to give districts more flexibility. So it requires the formation of an IMA team to ensure primarily that we have curriculum that will cover the student expectations or the state curriculum so that students are prepared for the state assessment. It confers the selection authority to a district IMA team, and it also, instead of just looking at a singular vote or a vote of a committee, as was the case under the old textbook adoption policy, it strongly encourages districts to look at their visioning documents, their guiding principles, and their strategic plans. So it really does allow districts to have much greater flexibility. So as an analogy, under the old textbook adoption policy, it was like uniform shopping. You had a selection provided to you, and you can only choose from that selection, regardless of whether it fit or it was appropriate. Under the new IMA, it's more like window shopping. You're not tied to any one vendor. You're free to look at multiple vendors and select items that most fit your district's needs. And under IMA, we're not required to purchase instructional materials at all during an adoption year. So here's what the old policy looked like: extensive, very detailed, very directive. And here's what the new policy looks like. You can see they removed many of the components that we formerly had. So the new policy states that the district shall establish a team as needed to select instructional materials and technological equipment to be purchased with the district's instructional materials allotment. The team shall make selections based upon district instructional needs and in accordance with administrative regulations. The instructional materials allotment team shall ensure that selected materials, in combination with any other materials in use by the district, allow the district to certify that all students are provided with instructional materials that cover the essential knowledge and skills as required by law. So now I'd like to highlight 4 major actions that we took as we deliberated and actually went through the process of instructional materials evaluation. So the first is we spent a lot of time evaluating our current resources and whether they're aligned to our curriculum standards. So in 2010 and 11, we implemented new science TEKS. We will be implementing a new curriculum, which are our TEKS. We'll be implementing a new curriculum in math next year. Unfortunately, the last science adoption was 14 years ago. So we've lost kingdoms, gained domains, and lost a planet since that time. And we do have quite an old adoption. Our math adoption is 7 years old. So if you compare that, what our current resources, what we currently have, and the change that we have in our state curriculum, you'll see that we have quite a significant change. This means that our current instructional resources are not aligned towards our state assessment. As we've said many times, the new state assessment is extremely rigorous. It requires an alignment of our curriculum. And I'll give you an example of some major changes that we have. This is just one example, but there are many. In grade 4 in mathematics, we have one standard coming up from 3rd grade to 4th grade, but the rest are coming down from higher grades. So we have 3 coming down from 5th grade, 2 coming down from 6th, and 2 coming down from 7th. To give you a visual, here's mathematics. So everything in red is what is the percent that we anticipate changing for that grade level. And what's in blue is the curriculum standards that are staying the same. So if we were to draw a line there at 50%, you can see that our current resources support a curriculum of which 50% is changing. And here's science. You're probably asking, how did science do it? Because their curriculum changed a couple of years ago in 2010-11. You may recall that the state had a supplementary adoption. So they knew this curriculum gap existed, and so they said, we'll offer you a Band-Aid until we get to the adoption. So we chose that Band-Aid. We put the curriculum in place that the state said was only supplementary, but they did promise us it would go away this year. So at the end of this year, we will no longer have that Band-Aid, and this is what our misalignment will look like in terms of our curriculum to our resources. So when we decided that we really did need to evaluate new instructional materials, we knew that although we were not required or compelled under the law to involve stakeholders, we thought that was a very important part of the process in the old textbook adoption policy. So we continue to do that, and here's an example of a list of teachers that we involved in the process. In every content area, we gave special thought and consideration to involving teachers at every level, and to have a balance of voices from the grade levels, and to have a preponderance of teacher feedback over instructional coaches and district specialists. So the graph on the left shows you the number of responses that we received by grade level, and the graph on the right shows you the number of responses we received by job description. So you have monolingual teachers, 419, and then the classroom teachers at the top that says 45, those are bilingual teachers, and those are the number of responses we received. In addition to ensuring that we involve stakeholders, we did develop a textbook adoption webpage for teachers so that any teacher could go online and review the resources. We also held instructional materials hearings. We were no longer required to under the policy, but we did that because we thought it was an important part of our process. We also had a parent survey. Again, we were not required to, but we posted this to the NEISD webpage and opened it up for any parents who wanted to give us feedback. In addition to face-to-face meetings, we also offered virtual meetings so that we could make it easier for the reviewers to provide their input, because we had heard that it's very difficult for teachers to attend, too many meetings. So in addition to face-to-face, we hosted virtual. So in involving the stakeholders, we wanted to get a lot of feedback for them. And instead of, in the past, just looking at the curriculum, we wanted to look at other factors, because under IMA, we're allowed to do that. So those that you see in blue are the instructional side, the content side, the curriculum side. We looked at alignment. We looked at whether the publisher had instructional resources for the entire level, because that helps us with the continuity. We also looked at depth and rigor and the process for developing the understanding over time. But we also looked at functionality. Was it easy to use? We looked at compatibility with our current infrastructure, and we looked at cost, because we wanted to be good stewards of the district's resources, and we know that some of the costs are back end. For example, sometimes you have to pay additional costs once you've paid for the initial adoption, or in teacher additions, or in additional professional development support. We also incur a significant cost if they do not release copyright authority to us so that we can use the graphics and the items on our benchmark. So all of these were very important in our negotiations with publishers, and we had a rubric to evaluate all of these. So one of the things that we did is ensure that we evaluated the content, because we know that if we don't prepare our students and the curriculum isn't aligned, our students will not be in the best position entering the state assessment. And so we had our teachers do multiple evaluations. What you see here is an example of a depth and rigor. We asked them questions and we allowed them to respond on a scale of 0 to 4. So we had many teachers evaluating, and we had them evaluating many different components. We then aggregated that information to select a resource. And you can see here that in this particular instance, this is middle school math. Texas math outscored all of the others. Because under IMA we are not compelled to adopt, but we have a choice, we thought it was prudent to ask the teachers who participated in the textbook adoption, knowing all of this, Would you recommend that we purchase new materials? And here's how they responded. I'd like to point out that in math K-5, the 88%, the majority of the respondents who answered no were K-2 teachers. And our assistant director in mathematics was very forward-thinking. They have been on the new TEKS for 2 years because that department has prepared the curriculum. So they feel like they have the resources in place, but it's because we have prepared some lessons for them. They are not... we could not do that again for 3, 4, and 5 because of the time and the number of lessons it requires, and there still needs to be a lot more work done in K2. In chemistry, that 83% represents 1 teacher, and in physics, the 90 represents 1 teacher. So I know you've seen the action item that has the cost on it, but I wanted to highlight that we do have future proclamations, but this is the largest. We have 22 courses and grade levels and 2 programs this year. We will not be going forward with a request for technology applications or career in tech because the teachers who evaluated those made a determination that they wanted to stay with their current resources. Next year, we have another proclamation, social studies, mathematics, and fine arts. That's 17 levels in 1 program. In 2016, 1 program. In 2017, 1 program. In 2018, we have 6 levels or courses and 1 program. And in 2019, we have 7 levels and 2 programs. I wanted to take this time to assure you, of course, transformation is on my mind. And I wanted to assure you that as we were looking at these resources, we really tried to pay attention to the things that were requested by our community in terms of the kind of instruction that our students are receiving in the classroom. And I just wanted to show you an example of what that looks like. This is an example of an elementary text. It's a workbook, it's a consumable workbook, and pages have some recommendations for students in sections so that they can go online and get additional math support that they call Math on the Spot. Here's an example of a resource, and it's city figures. It's where students find geometry that they might find in the city. So it's a real-world application. On the right side, he's measuring the circumference of the circle of a cylinder. So it's real-world application, 21st century careers, and on the right side, that's a translation. It's asking them about what would happen if you translated this image in a computer program. So we don't have traditional, do 50 skill and drill problems. We looked at resources, and the resources that we're recommending to you have the components that our community has asked, and of course, student engagement. If you look at his face, you'll see science is extremely engaging. And of course, the rigor. So as part of IMA, the board is required to certify that the instructional resources we have will cover the state curriculum so that students are prepared for the assessment. And I just wanted to assure you that the reviewers have certified, and we are letting you know that the resources that we're recommending for adoption are aligned to the state curriculum and will support our students towards passing the state assessment as required under IMA.
Click for me. On this slide, you'll note the actual cost for the materials for each subject area. The IMA committee requests approval for $5,571,531 for the instructional material purchases for the Proclamation 2014.
All right, thank you for your presentation. Are there board members with questions? Ms. Hughey?
Just a comment, when people wonder about school funding, I mean, you're not only asking for the $5 million, which I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but the time and the effort that you have put into this is just stunning. I really appreciate what y'all do to bring this to us. Mm-hmm. It's just, I mean, granted, I know it's state mandated, and there's where the rub is. So thank you so much for what y'all have done.
It's a great team.
I'd really love to take the credit, but I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the content.
There's
They
a
really
team,
led
and
the
I get
teams
it.
and
Yeah.
did the.
Are they all here?
That's- They are here. If you
Could they stand up? Thank you so much for all your hard work. And I just had a quick question. For some reason, in the back of my head, I thought IPC was taken out as a science course, or
It is still an option under the graduation
okay
plans.
Okay, great. All right. Any other questions, Ms. Bresnahan?
Well, yes, I've got a few questions, actually. So my first thought was, okay, we've got math and science, and I'm glad that you indicated that there are further proclamations for other disciplines. So help me, because I don't know. Is it because we feel like there's a greater demand for instructional material for math and science specifically, and then we move on? Or is it something to do with TEKS and testing and how it all falls into place?
Part of it has to do with the cycle of revising the student expectations, and the state at one time was trying to coordinate the cycle so that we would go through review and an adoption.
Right.
Is what they're attempting to do. But you can tell that in science they were a little bit
Well, there's,
late.
what did you say, 14 years? Okay.
14 years.
Okay, so having said that, when you, looking at these products, I'm sure there's evidence that these products are robust and deliver good outcomes. Would you concur with that?
Absolutely.
Okay. And my other question is, when I look at science, IPC in biology, chemistry, physics, it's strictly high school.
Yes.
Now, so the biology class, is that where theory of evolution is taught? I should know this. I've had 3
It is
kids
in
out.
it is currently in the
And so
standard.
that's still
It is required currently under the
because there's a lot
state
of
curriculum.
a lot of discussion that always makes that the media really hones in on. And so then I start thinking, well, what exactly is it that we are teaching? So you had science teachers be part of your, when you went through the group of list of committee members.
Absolutely. Yes. At the high school, we requested a representative from every high school
Yeah.
for every content that was being adopted.
And you're comfortable that these are spot on, the best materials you believe that are out there for us to do what we need to do?
In addition to having the teachers review it, we involved the deans and our instructional specialists.
Okay.
So each one of them did a separate review and then brought the information together.
And when you talked about that evaluation, you had the bar graph where it was blue and red, and you said it was changing. Is it changing because we've expedited expectations where in maybe my day, what I learned in the 5th grade, now the kids learn in the 3rd grade? Is that what that is? Or is it truly a change?
I'm not sure which graphic you're referring to.
there
The
was
one
one
with the
for
change in the student expectations?
It was
The red and blue?
Yeah, the red and blue TEKS, and you said there was an evaluation, you realized that there was a change. But is it a change, or is it just that we're expediting information with these, and we expect the students to learn things sooner than later? Is that what that, I don't understand that.
I think that it depends, it's a combination of both.
Okay.
And I would say that in mathematics, for the past 20 years at least, we have a much better understanding of how students learn mathematics. And that if they are to reach the high levels that we want them to reach those STEM careers, if that's what they choose, then they have to be doing math differently. So there's definitely a change.
Okay.
But then there also is a move, as you saw from that chart, for moving some of that higher content, more rigorous content down. So I'd say it's both.
It's both, okay, I appreciate that. That makes sense to me. And I think just the last thing I'd like to say to the two of you and your group is that what you do is vitally important. I never thought about it, but I work in an academic medical center, and sometimes people will say to me, physicians that do research and that are looking for cures for cancer, finding new drugs that we can get FDA approved, and they always say to me, it is what you teach these kids in math and science means everything, because if we can prepare these students, those kids will come back to our state, They're the ones that will find the cure. They're the ones that will do the research. And how when they go to other states in the country, that's what all these people are looking at. What state has the best prepared student? Because that's where the research money will go. And that's where the best medical care will be. And so I want you to know that what you do, I absolutely see a correlation all the way through, and it's so important, and I appreciate your process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wheat?
Yes, just a quick question. I know you talked about the science Band-Aid. Could you just explain that a little bit more for me? I don't quite understand what the Band-Aid is.
14 years ago, we were allowed to purchase textbooks, so they're traditional textbooks. But because the standards have changed since we purchased those books, the state allowed us to purchase a supplementary adoption, and we purchased what we call STEM scopes. It's 100% digital. So in addition to the old textbook the teachers have, the teachers also had access to STEM scopes. I can tell you that our old textbook, because it's so old, we've done a lot of supplementing with curriculum we've written in the district and STEM scopes. And we find STEM scopes to be a very strong, robust program. So we have been doing so well because we've had a strong supplemental resource. In fact, that is the resource that we're proposing for adoption. It's brother on, it's a 2.0 version, so it's a stronger product, but it's a product that our teachers use, and they have really been happy with it as a support for science.
Okay. Do we have other Band-Aids we use in different areas as well?
Supplementary adoption, no.
No, just in
No,
science?
we don't have any. No, science is because of that lag between when the curriculum standards changed and the fact that they weren't going to have an adoption anytime soon.
Thank you.
Mr. White?
Yes, I have one question regarding apparently this instructional material for this year will probably have less books. Is that correct?
Less books in terms of the type of resource and digital?
A smaller number of books being purchased based on the fact that you can have other resources other than books. Do you anticipate that you will buy less books this year?
We are buying fewer hard books. For example, in high school, there will be a class set in the classroom and 100% digital.
But there'll still be a
for
book.
students. But there will still be a book. Whereas before, we would have purchased 100% of the books. They would have all been books. But we're moving towards some digital resources.
Okay, so some of the digital resources will be a book on tape, on a CD.
Or online.
DVDs.
Online. Mm-hmm.
But it'll still be considered a book?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Bresnahan?
I had one more question, sorry. Sure. So the $5 million in purchase, I'm sure that's a line item somewhere, or you're given some sort of number in which you have to fall under?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
The state has provided us a 2-year budget to work within.
Just to be sure, thank you.
Anyone else? I just had a quick question about the changes where we're getting an allotment per student. And so if a student moves away and another student doesn't necessarily come and take their place, do we have to pay the state back? Is that allotment for the year regardless of?
It's for the biennium.
Okay. So it doesn't matter if we lose or gain students, you don't have to pay the money back?
No.
Okay. That's
and we'll
good.
get to roll it forward too. That's
good. Great. That's wonderful. Good. I'm glad some things are moving in the right direction in this area. That's really good news. Any other questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I move that we approve the recommended instructional materials.
Thank you, Ms. Hughey. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Next item. Thank you again.
2, possible action regarding pre-K for SA, MOU.
Sorry. Ms. Hawkins.
Thank you, President Galindo, board members, and Dr. Gottardy. I'm going to turn the microphone right back over to Pauline Borman for this item.
Good evening.
Good evening. Long time no see.
Yes. Madam President, Dr. Gottardy, members of the board, executive staff, and guests, thank you for providing us the opportunity to bring you an update on pre-K for SA. I'd like to begin with providing you with some brief background information. A year ago this month, NEISD School Board voted to enter an agreement with the City of San Antonio to participate in pre-K for SA. The all-day pre-K for SA program is free of charge for students who meet at least one of the state eligibility criteria. Students were selected through a lottery system held by the City of San Antonio, and for the 2013-14 school year, NEISD received 83 slots. We had over 200 families apply to participate in the lottery process, and participating parents have provided positive feedback about their experiences. Throughout the year, NEISD has worked collaboratively with Pre-K for SA to develop a positive partnership. We developed effective structures and communication systems to facilitate problem solving. Strategies have included monthly meetings, site visits, and consistent communication. Our site visits have allowed us the opportunity to observe the positive environment that Pre-K for SA is providing the students through quality instructional practices, small student-teacher ratios, job-embedded staff development, and a welcoming, developmentally appropriate facility. Our early childhood assistant director, Julia Schneider in the back, attends monthly meetings with Pre-K for SA and has provided the opportunity to bring topics of concern to the table and to learn more about the progress of the program. As the message of the importance of early childhood education has spread across the city, NEISD has seen a small increase in our pre-K enrollment for this year as well. NEISD teachers have been provided the opportunity to attend staff development offerings provided by Pre-K for SA throughout the school year. We've had over 25 teachers participate in the training. And then this summer, Pre-K for SA is bringing a robust array of early childhood experts to provide staff development on early learning practices. And these workshops are available to all teachers from the participating districts. The Pre-K for SA program has proven to be cost neutral. As a reminder, participating students are enrolled as Northeast ISD students. The district receives funding from the state for their average daily attendance while they're in attendance at Pre-K for SA. The district then pays tuition to the City of San Antonio for those participating students. We pay for only the days in which the child is in attendance. NEISD has hired a .5 administrative assistant to assist with the Pre-K for SA enrollment, daily attendance, and billing. The district's cost of participating in Pre-K for SA does not exceed the revenue the districts receive from the state. In today's agenda packet, please note that on the budgeted purchases of goods and services costing $50,000 or more, there's an estimated expenditure of $259,000 to the City of San Antonio for Pre-K for SA listed. And this amount listed is the estimated cost of the tuition for the 83 students to attend Pre-K for SA this year. For the 2014-15 school year, Pre-K for SA will have 4 sites. At this time, NEISD has been allotted 171 seats. The city once again will hold a lottery to determine which families will be given the opportunity to participate. Our legal counsel, Rick Lopez, and other legal counsels from the participating districts have negotiated the attached MOU, the MOU that you have. And it is recommended that the Board of Trustees approve the City of San Antonio Early Childhood Education Municipal Development Memorandum of Understanding as presented.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Are there any board members with questions? Nope.
Just a comment.
Comment, Ms. Hughey?
Just thank you so much to you and to the rest of the group for keeping such a careful eye on this past year. I really do appreciate that. Thank you.
Mr. Wheat, did you have a question?
No, thank you.
Okay, great. All right. Last call for questions? Seeing none, do I have Mr. White, did you have a question?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I move that we accept the pre-K for SA MOU as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Bresnahan. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Next item.
D, Campus Administration. 1, possible action regarding approval of PDOS appraisers.
Dr. Newman.
President Galindo, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, and guests. The list of qualified appraisers who may appraise a teacher shall be approved by the board, and we have a list for you this evening of 6 administrators who have met all of the established requirements. Mr. Joel Trevino is here if you have any questions of these 6.
Thank you very much. Are there board members with questions? Nope. Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Grona. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item.
E, Business Services. 1, possible action regarding the consideration and approval of an order authorizing the issuance of Northeast Independent School District variable rate unlimited tax school building bonds, Series 2014, in 1 or more series.
Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, executive staff, and guests. This is an order requesting to go out to market on the remaining issue that we have, the $71 million that we have from the 2011 bond election. Jeff Kuhn, partner with Norton Fulbright, Rose and Fulbright, and we also have our financial advisors, Ricardo Villaseñor of the Corbera Capital Markets and Raul Villaseñor with First Southwest, and they're here in case you had any questions, but it's kind of what we did last year and a few months ago, so we're requesting your approval. And we have quite a bit of things that we need to sign, so I'll stay with you all to help you all.
You get to be my babysitter, Mr.
Yes,
Villarreal.
yes, ma'am.
There's going to be Miss Hughey and I will be busy after the meeting, should the motion pass. Do I have board members who have questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I move that we adopt an order authorizing the issuance of Northeast Independent School District variable rate unlimited tax school building bonds, Series 2014, pursuant to a delegated sale as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Hughey. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. Next item. Thank you, gentlemen, for attending our meeting tonight. Sorry.
2, possible action regarding consideration and approval of an order authorizing the issuance of Northeast Independent School District unlimited tax refunding bonds, Series 2014A.
Mr. Villarreal.
Yes, Madam President, we're asking for approval to be able to go to market on some refunding of some 04 series bonds.
Okay. Any board members with questions on the old 4 bonds? Not old 4, 04. Seeing none, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I just had one
Ms.
note in
Hughey.
the paperwork, though. I noticed that some of this says Fulbright and Jaworski instead of Norton Rose Fulbright. I know you're changing names.
Well, no, I'm Jeff Kuhn with Fulbright and Jaworski. It's our firm's privilege and honor. Actually, our subsidiary in the United States is Fulbright and Jaworski LLP. The international is Norton Rose Fulbright.
Okay.
So it depends on what you're reading or what contract. So I appreciate each of you spending time to sign lots of documents, but Mr. Villarreal has said it succinctly and correctly. So the Fulbright and Jaworski LLP is still correct.
Oh, it is. Good.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. And thank you again for attending the meeting. We appreciate your presence. All right. Next item. Sorry.
F, consent. 1, business services. A, budget amendment 4. B, $50,000 purchases. C, donations. D, bid items. 2, operations. A, easements for drainage, streets, utilities, and various service agreements in support of Eisenhower Middle School. B, Johnson and Roosevelt High School Central Energy Plant's Chemical Water Treatment Contracted Services Bid Authorization, Maintenance, and Operations Program. C, district-wide indefinite delivery quantity, roof maintenance and roof-related work contracted services bid award, approval, maintenance, and operations program. D, Wilderness Oak Elementary School and Panther Springs Park interlocal agreement for park improvements and access. E, proposed Stone Oak Park improvements to add a secondary park entrance at Bush Middle School and development of an interlocal agreement for park improvements and access. F, 2011 bond JROTC rifle range electronic target and scoring system procurement bid authorization approval. G, 2011 bond Garner Middle School construction manager at risk campus improvement project bid package 2 new academic facilities and campus renovations construction document approval. H, 2011 bond Reagan High School construction manager at risk campus improvement project package 3 building finish out bid award approval. I, 2011 bond Eisenhower Middle School construction manager at risk campus improvement project bid package 1 site work and utilities bid award approval. J, maintenance and operations program Delview Elementary School campus drainage channel improvement project bid award approval. K, professional services contracts, construction contracts, and related contract amendments supporting 2007-2011 bond and district M&O programs, design and construction requirements. 3, minutes from January and February 2014. 4, end of consent.
Thank you, Ms. Hughey. That was a marathon to read all that.
Yeah.
Are there any board members wishing to pull an item from consent?
F1.
Okay, Ms. Hughey would like to pull F1. Ms. Bresnahan, sorry.
That's okay. I like her.
All right, do I have a motion to approve consent without F1?
So moved.
I'll give that to Ms. Bresnahan and the second to Ms. Perkins. How about that? All right, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Ms. Bresnahan.
Yes. Can you explain the difference, the delta? F1?
What about it?
322,000. I just want to try and make sure I understand.
Ms. Bresnahan, are you talking about the budget amendment number 4?
Oh, F1A Budget Amendment 4. Yes, sorry.
Okay.
I thought
Yes.
you could read my
Dan?
mind.
Yes,
Sorry.
ma'am. Brian Moyer, Senior Director.
Yeah.
Can come to the podium and explain it.
Good evening. The delta there is the fact that when we went out to do the refundings of the 2005 series bonds, the original budget does not include this refunding. The markets came to where it was opportune for us to do so.
Yes.
So we decided to go out. Now we're making the budget in line with that. What happened was, because there's an August 1, 2014 payment that would have been made on these bonds had we not done the refunding.
What you did, right.
The October tax levy from October 2013 tax levy already had enough money being taxed to pay off some the interest on those bonds. So we're just taking money that we've collected from taxes and making the and moving it to the escrow now, as opposed to making it an interest expense next August. Wow, that really twisted that around. I'm trying to make this easier, and it's not working. So
you know why? You look at a negative number and you think true loss, but that's not the case.
No. All we're doing
That's
is
what I really want to know.
we're taking $300,000 of cost and recording it now because we're putting it in an escrow account as opposed to paying it in August.
Thank you. Thanks.
Ms. Bresnahan, would you like to make a motion? Unless there's other board members with questions. Ms. Bresnahan, would you like to make a motion?
I would like to move that we accept consent with F1A.
Well,
is that correct?
F1.
all of them.
Oh, I move that.
They approve F1 because you pulled
I
F1.
move that we approve F1A budget amendment number 4.
Okay, but you pulled all of F1.
I pulled F1A.
Okay.
You're approving F1,
Yeah,
not F1A.
yeah, but you,
Okay.
the motion is for
Okay.
F1 because you pulled F1.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So
That's
I
okay.
would like to move that we approve consent with F1
One.
included.
Yes.
Is that correct?
With F1.
Yes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. White. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. That's all right. It's all in there.
Everything's approved now.
Yep. All right, next item.
9 reports. A, financial statement, review of expenditures.
And those have been provided for you. Next item.
10, board member requests for items to be placed on next month's agenda.
Are there any board members wishing to request an item on next month's agenda?
These things are out of order, just to know.
Yeah. All right, seeing
Take it
none.
out of order and do the,
Well,
no, okay.
hold on.
You see, this should have been after matters. Okay, all right. Yeah. we'll do it.
Request.
Okay.
Typically, this item is after matters from the floor. So since we haven't voted on it yet, I'm going to go ahead and move it after number 11.
Okay, so we're going
So we'll go to number 11.
to, okay. 11, matters from the floor.
Thank you. This time is provided for citizens to address the board on issues or concerns other than the character or name of any student, staff, or board member. Each person who signs up will be allowed to address the board one time for no more than 5 minutes. Therefore, a presentation involving more than one person is not permitted. Board members cannot respond to issues or concerns that were not listed on the agenda, but they may assign an issue to a future agenda or to the administration for further study. Ms. Hughey.
Brenda Brooks.
Ms. Brooks, you're not going to speak? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Roger Fisher.
Roger Fisher, 2638 Pebble Breeze, 78232. Good evening, everybody. At our last board meeting, I was surprised and disappointed at our president's comments towards me at last month's meeting. By state law, our school board members are elected public servants with a primary goal of serving our district's taxpayers and students at your highest level. On the other hand, by state law, our superintendent, administrators, teachers, and support staff are employees of our district with a primary goal of serving our board members, taxpayers, and students at their highest level.
Mr. Fisher, excuse me, you signed up to speak about student academics. Is that what you were going to speak on tonight?
Yes.
Okay. Just checking.
Okay. Also, there are code of ethics for educators and school board members with a primary goal of serving our district taxpayers and students with the highest level of transparency. The school board members and superintendents serve as our leadership for our district. The pressure and spotlight is on you to perform at your highest level for student academic excellence and safety and the full confidence of our taxpayers. There are only certain situations where transparency is not required by our board members and superintendents. I do not believe the information and questions that I have presented falls in this category. For instance, the 13 questions I asked our superintendent concerning pre-K SA, which he refused to answer. The information I formally requested from my accusers concerning the letter that was sent to me by our district lawyer. He is not your personal lawyer. If your allegations were a verbal or physical threat to you, you should have filed a police report. If our superintendent alleged a rift between him and board members, he should have contacted the Administrators Association for legal counsel. Now, Mrs. President, can you see the big picture about my protest about you delivering a recorded conversation to our district lawyer
Mr.
alleging
Fisher,
a threat?
again, you had signed up to talk about student success.
Yeah, I'm getting there. This is what this whole thing is about. That's what I've been doing for the last 7 months. My complaint is your obligation as a school board member. Your personal obligations have no concern to me. Also, along the same lines, I requested information from our board members about school business obligations. Do you personally meet with our taxpayers for feedback on a regular basis? Do you personally visit our schools for feedback on a regular basis? Do you personally understand thoroughly the issues you vote on? Another complaint and protest is attacked on me from our board secretary and president. From a school business setting, those attacks were highly unethical between an employee and employer.
This has nothing to do with student academics and safety, which is what you signed up to speak on.
It sure does.
And again,
your leadership has all
Sir,
to do.
do not interrupt me.
Okay.
I'm only going to remind you once about not being disrespectful in front of the board. If your comments turn disrespectful again while you're talking, I will ask you to be seated.
That's your opinion,
Yes, sir.
and that's your rules.
Yes, sir, and I'm running the meeting, and so if I decide that you are being disrespectful, then you will be seated.
You have to be careful about showing bias towards an employee. In summation, I protest and complain for the lack of progress from our superintendent that is learning on the job in a part-time school board.
Okay, Mr. Fisher, have a seat.
Margaret Elizondo.
Good evening, Mrs. Galindo, members of the board, Dr. Gottardy, and guests. My name is Margaret Elizondo, and I'm speaking as a member of the Northeast AFT Executive Board. Our address is 6800 Parkton Boulevard. Securing safe and orderly schools is a continuing goal of AFT. Tonight, we would like to address one facet which greatly concerns us. When a teacher writes an office referral, they realize that they are relinquishing control of the situation to their administrators. This requires a great deal of trust. Teachers want a collaborative partnership with their administrators. When a referral is met with minimal consequences, it fractures the trusting relationship. There is a large discrepancy between campuses in Northeast and how discipline referrals are handled. The students learn very quickly if they will be held accountable for their behavior. At many campuses, students tell the teachers, "Go ahead and send me to the office. They're not going to do anything." This frequently leads to an increase in disruptive behavior and an escalation in the severity. In some cases, students are so disruptive, they prohibit other students in the class from learning. Because much is left up to the principal discretion, inequities in learning opportunities have developed across the district. Northeast has historically been known for having high standards and excellence in education, but we are seeing a year after year decline in behavioral standards, which directly correlates to the academic achievement of our students. Thank you for your time.
And that's all the speakers tonight.
Next item.
Okay, we want to go back to 10. Is that what you want to do now?
Correct,
Okay,
yes.
just want to check. Okay. 10, board member requests for items to be placed on next month's agenda.
Are there any board members with requests to place an item on next month's agenda? Okay, seeing none, we have no action there.
Then we'll go to 12, discussion and possible action regarding board member requests for reports from the administration.
And we have no action there. Next item.
13, adjournment. We're
It
early.
is, yeah, it's 8:13. We are adjourned.
Early one, guys.
Man.